Hello everyone, welcome to DSA Carnival 2021. My name is Ansas Deva and I will be your host for today's event. DSA Carnival is 18 days long event in which India's top educator will teach you data structure and algorithm. Our today's educator is Mr. Gaurav Singh. He is a very popular YouTuber and also founder of Interview Ready and a former SG at Uber. Today he will teach you hashing. Uh, at the end of the session, there will be a quiz, and the winner of that quiz will get a t-shirt from Prep Bites. The link of the quiz will be shared in the description and the live chat also. The winner of the yesterday's quiz will be announced at the end of this session. Also, there is a giveaway for you guys. For that, you have to take a screenshot of this event and tag any of the organizing Code Chef chapter. The person with maximum likes will get goodies from GitHub. Now, I will request Gaurav sir to start the session.
Thanks, Ansh. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks to Code Chef, the chapters, to actually host this. Seems exciting. Today we are going to be learning about hashing. So one of the things I'll do is I'll share my screen, and but before that, guys, in the comments you can let me know how many of you are, let's say, comfortable with hashing, and how many of you are not comfortable with hashing, or have never done hashing, or don't know what hashing is. Okay, so if we can take a poll. I don't think I can take a poll, but yeah, how many of you are not comfortable with hashing, never heard of hashing, and seeing hashing for the first time? Okay. Volatile learning has never done hashing. This is volatile learning. Yeah. Okay. No idea about hashing. Never done. All right. All right. So there's some people who have never done hashing. Okay. Okay, so this is good. So what we'll do is we'll start with what hashing is. What is the definition of hashing? Why do we use it? That's the most important thing. And some applications around hashing. Okay. If there are two things that you need to know in computer science really, really well to start with computer science, one would be, according to me, sorting. Okay, and the other would be hashing. So sorting teaches you a lot about searching also. Hashing will teach you a lot about assignment. So let's start. Okay, I'll just share my screen. Okay, so is my screen visible, guys, in the chat? I think yes, it is. I'm quite sure. Yeah. So, okay. In fact, let me stop sharing the screen and I'll bring the window to a bigger monitor where I can see you guys more clearly. Okay, so. Perfect. So the screen is being shared. Okay, we are talking about hashing today. Hashing basically means mapping. Okay, it's a special form of mapping. What do you mean by mapping? If you take a function f and you pass in a parameter x, it gives you an output y. Okay, hashing is just this. H of x gives you y. Why would you then call it mapping? I mean, why would you call it hashing? Why wouldn't you just call it mapping? Well, the reason is that usually hashing has a particular range. So this number is less than equal to 0 or less than equal to n and greater than equal to 0. Okay, so if I take a number, let's say x is 1, 2, 3, and I do a hash. So the hash function is whatever number you pass into it, 1, 2, 3, divided by 100 and take the remainder. So that will be 23. So by definition, this hash function will give you numbers between 0 to 100. That's the important thing about hashing. It has a range. So that's the first property. It gives you a range of 0 to some number n. Usually n is a prime number. Okay, and the second thing is it allows you to map objects or numbers to the same value. Okay, so if this is my set, and I have my numbers over here. This can be considered my hash range. I have just two numbers over here, and I can map my numbers to these two numbers. Okay, so you might have seen this in set theory, that one set of numbers are all pointing to another set of numbers. That is what hashing is. You're seeing that this set is smaller, which is allowing us to constrain the value of the numbers from 0 to m. Firstly, that's an important, useful case. And second thing is, these numbers are always being mapped to the same number again and again. Okay, that's how basic hashing is. Let me now start taking some use cases. So firstly, let us say there are many users that you have who are using your mobile application. And they are from different colleges. So this is from college A, this is college B, this person is also from college A, and this person is from college B. If I pass their college names through a hash function, I'm going to either get 1 or 2. Okay, so assume that I'm taking a modulo. Let's take 0 or 1. This is more sensible. 0 or 1. So if it is A, then map it to 0. And if it is B, then map it to 1. So this is my special hash function. So effectively what is happening is h of college is equal to whatever college is there minus A. Okay, that's what my hash function is giving me. Now, how is this useful in the real world? Due to COVID, everybody has scattered all around the world. Okay, we have people in Mumbai, we have people in Delhi, we have people in Gurgaon. They are from different colleges, but you want them all to go on the same server when they are sending a request. So the way you'll do that is you'll take a hash of the college, and when they're sending requests to your server, you say, okay, give me the college ID, I'll hash it, and I'll find out whether I'll send it to server number 1 or server number 0. Okay, so all people who want to chat in the same college are being sent to the same server. And over here, again, the same thing is happening for the other college. This is the general idea. You want to map people from one place to another using hashing. Let's take a more interesting example. How many of you have heard of hash map? Okay, we'll get to know the internals of the hash map right now. A hash map is used for multiple things. It is for searching and storing data. Okay, let's take a use case. Let us say that you have numbers 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 5, and 1, 2, 6. Okay, and now you need to be able to tell where is 1 to 5. I mean, does 1 to 5 exist in this set? So what would be some different ways in which you can do this? You have a set of numbers. Let us say 1, 2, 9 also is here, and 1, 3, 0 is also there. So in this set of numbers, how do you efficiently tell whether a number exists or not? I'll just give you guys 1 minute to think about this. Okay, the searching techniques. Harshnil is saying you can use searching techniques. Yeah, you could. There's something called a set data structure, right? Which is storing our numbers here. The general idea for us is that, hey, if I have a lot of numbers, okay, like millions of numbers over here, how do I efficiently find a number? I mean, how do I efficiently say whether this number exists or doesn't exist in this set? One of the things I can use is hashing. Why? Well, if I start hashing these numbers, into different values, right? This is a huge set. By hashing, we can constrain the set size. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, acha, theek hai. Amongst all these numbers, just do a modulo 10. How many values can I get? How many remainders can be there when I do a modulo 10? 0 to 9? Yeah. So now in this, if I do a hash, then I get for 3, I have one value. Okay. For 4, I have one value. For 5, another value. For 6, another value. For 7, I have no value. 8, nothing. Directly 9, one value. And 0, one value. Because if you do 130 divided by 10, you get 0 as your remainder. Okay. So now the maximum number of values I could have was 10. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values. Okay. Now let's say somebody says, do you have in your set of numbers, do you have 127? I don't need to search in this. I just need to go and see over here in this small set of values, does 7 exist? Because what I'm doing is 127 modulo 10 kitna aa raha hai? That is going to give me 7, right? So does 7 exist amongst the numbers that I've saved here? So I'll come here, I'll say, does 7 exist? No. 6 ke baad 7 nahi hai. So then I say, okay, fine. This search is a failure. Okay. On the other hand, if someone says, find me if you have the number 120. So I'll say, okay, 120 mod 10 gives me 0 again. That is the remainder when you divide 120 by 10. So does 0 exist? Yes. Then I go inside and check how many of these numbers with remainder 0 is equal to 120. So from my original set, this is the number 130 which is mapping here. Okay, then I'll go inside and I'll see, oh, this is 130. You were looking for 120. No, sorry. This is also a false positive. You are seeing that initially with 127, in one shot, we were able to say number doesn't exist. But with 120, we had to do some extra searching. Because initially we got a false positive, then we went ahead and saw that it is a negative. So usko hata do. Okay, that's the general idea. Now, are you able to see here that this is a good technique? It's an advanced technique of getting rid of a lot of possibilities that you have in your original big set by creating a smaller set of numbers and then mapping this big set to this smaller set. Okay, that's the general idea. You will take a large set of numbers, you'll map them into a smaller set of numbers, and you'll be able to search efficiently on this small set of numbers because of some property that that number has. Okay, in our case, we are saying what is your remainder with 10? That is a property. It could be that when you take their country and you do first letter, that could be your hash. So a hash can be anything, right? It is a function which helps you map a large set of numbers to a smaller set of numbers. So all the users in the world map to 26 states, or all the users in India map to 26 or 30 states. That's the general idea. Okay. So let's use this to actually create this data structure called a hash map. I'll use blue because I like using numbers in blue. What do we have? Yeah, a hash map is basically what we just saw. When you take a number, let's say 317, you hash that number and you get a value. Okay, so let us call that hash. This hash creates something called a bucket. All of this sounds like hocus pocus, but it's going to become very soon, very clear very soon. Basically, in your data structure, you first take the hash of the number and you see whether the hash exists in your data structure. If it doesn't exist, you will create an array. Okay, so that's how simple it is. There is an array. 317 will go to the first position over here. So that is 317. And depending on the hash, you will be finding where this array is made. So let us say I'm doing the same thing, modulo 10. So that will give me the last integer, the last digit is 7. So this is for all numbers having last digit 7. So numbers like 27, 327, -7, so on and so forth. Okay, so 117. Okay, so this whole array is now filled. There will be other arrays also for different values. So if your remainder with 10 gives you 0, then you get this array. So 10, 20, 119, 0, Yeah, 119 can't be there because the remainder has to be 0 when divided by 10. And that's going to give you multiple arrays. Okay, this is the general idea of hashing. And this is the general idea of a hash map. Why is it a map? Well, what's happening is whenever you're searching for a number, all you're doing is you're running this hash function, getting a particular value, which is divided by 10, finding the array in which your number exists, and then reporting the answer. The best thing about this is that when you took the hash, when you divide it by 10, you cut down your search space by 10. Because when you're taking numbers in random, out of let's say 1000 numbers, you're expecting the numbers to uniformly fall 100 over here, 100 over here, 100 over here, and so on. So effectively, what did you do? Instead of searching 1000 numbers in one shot linearly, you broke it down to just one hash function execution and then 100 numbers being searched. Okay, that's the general idea. We can extend this also, right? What if someone says, okay, 100 numbers yahan pe, so why don't you break this down further? Why don't you say that this array points to 3 more arrays in the range, each of them having 33 and 33 size. Okay, so the hash function can be a multi-layer hash function. So that's an idea. I'll leave that as an exercise to you guys. It's done in the real world. It's done very often in the real world. You have basically 2 hash functions. So 317 may first you do a modulo 10, you get 7. So that will give you 1 bucket, which is over here. Then you do, let's say, modulo 3. Okay, so with this you will get the remainder equal to 1. And so the first bucket over here is where the number will be mapped. General idea of hashing, quite simple, quite easy. Okay, what I did over here is I'm assuming when the number comes in, let us say 7. So the number will be persisted over here. If a new number comes in, you see that the first slot is already booked, so you add it over here, let's say 17. That is the general idea, right? But you're seeing that over here 317, 17 modulo 10 gives you 7, and yeah, it's always going to fall here. So my hash function should not take 7, it should take something else. Okay, that's the implementation detail. Is this part clear? Do you guys have any doubts till this point? Okay, I can see quite a few doubts in the comments. Yeah, Jishan, yeah, some concepts like paging are actually quite, they're somewhere between sorting and somewhere between searching, yeah. Okay, Shruti Jain, but it can be possibility then 117 would be the number. I'm not sure about this. Can you elaborate on this? I'll look into it. Ansuri is asking, Gaurav, small doubt, can we use pattern matching concepts using Knuth-Morris instead of using hashing method? Okay. So we'll get to that. That's one of the use cases of hashing. In fact, let's keep this on the board for till we finish this. But okay, that's an interesting question. Thank you. Once again, finding arrays, it's clear. Okay, perfect. So let's move ahead with what was suggested to us by Ansuri, which is let's do this hashing for strings. Okay, so now let us say I have a string GKCS and I have a string which is code chef. Okay, now what I'm going to do to find the hash of this string GKCS is just to take the first character. I mean, take the characters and add them all up. Okay, I'm assuming they are numbers. Similarly, when I'm doing a hash of code chef, I'm going to just add all these numbers up, these characters up. And in the end, I will modulo with 100 to get the final hash. So in terms of GKCS, this is around 7 let's say 12, let's say 3, and let's say 19. Okay, so I said I'll add them all up. So 7 plus 12 is 19, 38, 42, 41. Modulo 100 gives me 41. Okay, so that's not very interesting, but let's see. CodeChef 3, 7, 4, 5, 3, 8. I don't know. I've used 5 here. Okay, that is good. 6. Okay, so this thing, when you add them all up, let us say is equal to 29. Modulo 100 gives me 29. Okay. Now, the important thing here is that if I want to find whether GKCS exists in my map, all I'm going to do, I'm going to make a guess here. Okay. I'm going to say, find the hash of GKCS. That is an order n operation, right? And the length of the string, if it is n, then I will find the hash by just summing all the characters. It's going to give me the number 41. I'll say, does 41 exist in your hash map? And you might say, yeah, 41 exists in my hash map. So job done. But there's a problem here. What if there was another person's string, let us say inter view ready. Okay, and for some reason, the hash is equal to 141. So when I do a modulo 100, I get the same number, 41. What that means is my hash is giving me a number 41. And let's say I come to my hash map and say, do you have interview ready? The hash map then checks and says the hash is equal to 41. Do I have 41 in my map? Yes. So I have interview ready, but that's a false positive. It never existed. Okay. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing an approximation? Why am I saying if 41 and 41 match, go ahead and say yes? Well, because searching for a string in a bunch of strings is an inefficient operation, is an expensive operation. I want to avoid it. Okay, if you have thousands of strings, or more likely in a database, you have millions of strings of length L1, L2, L3. So max length, let us say, is L, and you have n strings of length L. This is an order n into L operation, right? Where you are matching your query string, which is this, with all the strings in your database, in your library. So this is a very inefficient operation. On the other hand, if you just use the hash, what's happening? You take the hash, that takes you order n time, and then you do a binary search on this database, which is, as we know, order log of n. So in order, I mean, here it is n, it should be basically L, which is the length of the string. Okay. So order L plus log n is your total time required. Now this is very fast, but like we said, it might have a problem. It might give you a false positive. So now with everything in life, if you approximate things and try to speed things up, there is the danger that you'll get a wrong answer, but you can reduce the danger by making it slower and slower, basically putting more computation power in the end. So there is one hash function which is telling you GKCS, sum all the numbers up, and you get 41. Okay, that is one value. If you get the same matching value for an input query string, then you are in trouble, right? So I'll use two hash functions. Okay, two hash functions. So how is that? Hash 1, hash number 2 GKCS. What does this do? It doesn't just add the numbers up. It subtracts and adds numbers based on their indexes. So for every odd index, it is adding. For every even index, it is subtracting. And let us say this number is -7. Okay. So modulo with 100, this will give you around 93. Because you can add 100 to this and then mod by 100. So 93 is the remainder approximately. Okay. On the other hand, if you take interview ready and use the same formula, let us say 1 minus 3 minus 7 plus 7 minus something. Okay, based on the same formula. Take the first character, subtract the second character, add the third character, subtract the fourth character, so on and so forth. So if you use this formula here, you are getting a number which is highly unlikely to be 93. It's going to be, let's say, -74. So these two don't match. So what you have effectively done, okay, basic idea is very simple. Basic idea is if the hashes are matching in my string database, I am assuming that the string exists. To avoid false positives, where the two hashes which are matching are actually not matching in terms of string, I'm taking multiple hashes of the same string. So hash function 1 is giving me one answer, hash function 2 is giving me one answer for the same string. 41, 93. When I took a query string interview ready, I got 41 minus 74. Both of them didn't match. Fail the search. Say that I don't have this string, which is the correct thing to do. You don't have interview ready. You have GKCS. Okay. That's the general idea. You can speed up. I'll just clear this stuff. The general idea was you wanted to speed queries using hashing. And the second idea was you wanted to reduce wrong answers, okay, which is false positives. False positives is basically like you expected, I don't know whether this is the politically right statement to make, but a false positive is like you go and get a COVID test and the COVID result is yes, you have COVID, but maybe you don't. Okay, there is a small chance of false positive. There's a small chance of false negative also in any test. So hashing is basically a test. False negative means that you actually have the issue, the disease, or in our case COVID, and the test did not give you the right answer. So false positives and false negatives you want to reduce in anything. That's also the concept with hashing. Okay. Guys, if you have any doubts, let me know. Then we'll move to the next part. Okay. Ansuri has another good doubt. We'll get to that. How indexing is related to hashing? That is Snehashish. How is indexing related to hashing? That's an interesting question. That's a very interesting question. Okay. We'll get to that too. It's clear. Okay. Number of same sum. What if more same sum? Shimala, maybe you can elaborate on that question. I'm not getting you. Okay, but let's take this in order. So Snehashish asks, how is indexing related to hashing? Okay, I think you guys have gone through sorting already. So the basic idea is this. In a database, we have a lot of numbers or a lot of records. So all the records have an ID. Okay, usually your user ID. When you go to a bank, you say, this is my user ID and this is my query. So you have various details. So there's the ID and then profile details. Okay. Searching for IDs in this database can be done linearly, which is very slow. It can also be done over indexes, which is basically a binary search. Let's say you have like a BST, you also have another data structure called a B plus tree. You can use this. So your binary search then is possible on this ID. These IDs are sorted. Okay, that's the general idea. How is hashing helping here? Well, if I say that give me all the people having their ID ending with 7 or ending with 3 and put them in one bucket. So all the people with ID ending with 3 go to one bucket. All the people with ID ending with 7 go to another bucket. Okay, one database, separate database. Then what's happening is that I have taken the last digit, which can give me 10 values, and put them in separate databases. Now when I need to search for a ID, I can take the last digit, which is effectively a hash of the ID, and then doing a divide by 10. Same thing that we did earlier. And then finding the database where it exists. The assumption is that the number of records in this database is is 1/10 of the total number of records we have in our full system. Okay, so you sorted to get an index, but you hash to get a bucket. Okay, both of them are related to each other in the sense that they're not exactly related. They're used frequently together to speed up search queries. Okay, it's I think this part is sorted. That's how they're used together. Anusri is asking, why would you modulo with 100? Okay, so usually when you take a modulo of a hash, you want to modulo with a number which is a prime number. Now, the reason we do that, okay, firstly, you want to take a prime number, and second thing is it should be a large number. Why large number? Well, if you take with a small number, like if you take a hash with, let's say, 2 or 3, then what are you effectively doing? To take the hash, you did one computation, and then how much did you divide the search space by? Like if you had 1,000 records and you divide it by 2, then you have 500 records even now. But if you divide it by 1,000, then you have 1 record remaining, right? That is the general idea. So you, in fact, yeah, if you divide with a large number, you have a lot of spaces that the record can actually fall in. So what I just said is contradictory to what I'm explaining. But the general idea is this, that if you hash a number, you're going to get a value. You don't want to constrain the value to small numbers because otherwise all the values will fall in these records itself. So in fact, what I said was not contradictory. Let me just explain that again with an example. Let's say you have the numbers 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay. Now, if I hash by a large number, let's say 10. Okay, 10 is a very small number, but in our practical case, 10 is a pretty large number. These records will all fall to distinct buckets of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That bit is clear. So there are distinct buckets. Now, if you need to search amongst these buckets, it's an easy job. However, if I divide with a small number like 2, then what's going to happen is these will fall in similar buckets. Over here, this is going to be 0, 1, 0, 1, and 0. So you have 3 values mapping to 0. So you need to make an array of size 3 and store the numbers 12, 14, and 16. And you have 2 values mapping to the size 2, which is 13 and 15. Okay, this is with hash index 1. This is with hash index 0. So effectively, your search has not reduced much. In the first case, we had just 1 number to search after doing the hash. In this case, we have 3 or 2 numbers to search. And as the number of records increase, these arrays will get really, really large. Will get more and more populated. So you want to avoid that. That's the reason why we choose a large number. Okay. The reason we choose a prime number is because if you're taking a remainder with a prime number, so prime numbers have certain properties. If you don't take a prime number, and if someone finds a factor of that number, then your hash function will not have very good properties. I mean, many of the values will go and fall in the same bucket. So you want to avoid that. Okay, cool. You can have a look at the prime number reason because it's a little theoretically involved. The large number thing is quite intuitive. You want to spread out the hash as much as possible so that your searches are lesser. And effectively, if you're dividing by n and taking the remainder, you're taking your full search space and reducing it by n, a factor of n. Okay, collision resolving. That's an interesting question by Kumar Jinjay. Okay, if more strings have same sum, what will be time complexity? Okay. Above question to find example of duplicate character open indexing and hashing. No, let's not go there. It's quite detailed. But let's take the question on collision resolving by Kumar Mrityunjay. Okay. Okay. One interesting question with any hashing problem is that, let's say you have this set of numbers that you are trying to hash into different buckets. And what happens if you fill up this array? Okay, you chose an array of size 100, you had 1 million records, you filled up this whole array. One of the things that you can do is you can do a recomputation, like basically you create a new array of size 100, and you say that, okay, whenever there is a search query, and I see that this array has to be searched, if it is not in this array, then I will go and search the next array in the same thing. So it's a linked list, effectively a linked list. The other thing you can do is you can create an array of size 200, a huge array basically. Copy all these 100 elements and then start inserting elements from here. So instead of creating this array, you're just going to take this new element and start putting it here. Okay, that's how you can dynamically size your hash map. Another thing that you can do, I mean, basically you have full free reign to do whatever you like. You can create a hash map here also in this bit. So you destroy this structure, take these 100 elements and create a separate hash map with it. So let us assume that you had 10 buckets here. Now you have 10 more buckets here. So they are, yeah. So they're mapping to different arrays. Now, if you have a number, let's say 1, 2, 3, and it comes like, let us say modulo 10 gives you 3, this is the index with 3, you are not going to just persist in this array. This array does not exist. You're instead going to find where does it lie in these 4 buckets. So after getting a modulo equal to 3, maybe you'll do another hash. You'll do a mod 7. So that will tell you where you lie here with 7 buckets. That's how you can do some collision resolving. So this is not really collision resolving. This is more like dynamic bucket resizing. Collision resolving is handled using this itself because the bucket has a size. So you're linearly probing and inserting an element. You can also create a linked list in which you just keep appending at the end of it. Those are the primary 2 ways in which you can create hash buckets. This is, again, the structure is very similar to a hash map or a hash set or whatever you like to store. Okay, I'm not sure whether you guys would like to see the consistent hashing thing, but if you're, so I'll take a couple of more questions from here. But in general, if you're looking for a little more advanced concepts, you can have a look at some Codeforces or CodeChef problems on this. Yeah, a lot of people use hashing in the real world as well as interview problems. So have a look at that. My YouTube channel has a lot of videos on hashing. One of the interesting concepts, I'm not sure if it applies to you because you guys are just starting off with hashing, but there's something called consistent hashing, which you may want to look up. Okay, there is another concept called string hashing. Just writing these things down for you guys to check out. The third thing about hashing is like, can you do probing, or how do you do bucket allocation? Okay, this is a simple bit, but there are many nuances related to this. Okay, about questions. Different techniques of designing hash function. How to use hashing for 2-pair, 3-pair sum. Can you explain bucket resizing again? Others, have a look at the video on amortized analysis. I'll explain the basic idea here. But have a look at the amortized analysis video, it explains it better. The general idea is that whenever you're inserting elements in an array, the array is going to run out of space. So even if you create 1000 size array, okay, and you insert 1000 elements, now what do you do? So what we do is we just double the size of the array. We create a new array and we copy all the first 1000 elements. Then we start pushing into this new array of size 2000. Now you might think that, oh my God, this is too much. That's a lot of like space being used up. But whenever you're doubling the size, it's a 4000, the expectation is that it will get filled up anyways. And the moment you have filled it up, basically the moment you have come here and you have filled up all the elements, it was worth it. It was worth doubling it. Okay, that's the general idea. So it's the same thing that happens with a hash map. If you run out of space, just double the space of the bucket, you're good to go. Amortize, it's fine. That's the thing about bucket allocation. Okay, guys, if we do we have any more doubts? Let's. Noob Coder, your question of 2-pair, 3-pair sum is for this. I mean, it's a bit advanced. I can share some links to help you out in that sense. Different techniques for designing hash function pseudoman we were discussing. We talked about how do we take a large number. That's the first thing that we said. And the other thing was to take a prime number. So that's how we design a hash function. In general, in the real world, if you want to use a hash function to map a set of numbers to another set of numbers, you see in your domain what is going on. For example, if you have, let's say, people in Zomato. So you want to take a hash of all the users in India and send them to the same server, because you don't want the Indian restaurants to be on one server and the Indian customers to be on another server. So you map them all to the same place. So those are like some very basic ideas of hashing, but they help a lot in the real world. Okay, guys, I think we're sorted in the sense that we don't have any more questions. Adarsh Prasad is saying that it's clear. Are there any older questions that related to hashing that we are missing out on? No, I think we're good. Yeah. So if you're looking for a few more advanced concepts, you can have a look at these 3 things. Should be able to find them various sources on the internet. Especially string hashing is very relevant for computer programmers. Like we said, multiple strings being mapped to the same value help us tell whether it exists in our set or not. I have solved quite a few CodeChef problems this way. Basic idea is this, that take a string, hash it with multiple ways. If it gives it'll give you a set of numbers. So take a string, let's say India, hash it using hash function 1, hash function 2, hash function 3. You're going to get numbers 21, 31, 41. If you take another string, let's say USA, the chance of getting the same values is really low. Okay, you might get 21, 31, but you should definitely not get 41. Or you should not get, basically you should not get all 3 of them together. So if you get the three of them together, you're saying it's the same string. That's the idea. So using this, of course, you can efficiently search whether your data, whether your data structure has these values or not. So if you had India and you have the numbers 21, 31, and 41, and someone gave you a query string of India, you get these values, you check whether you already have it. If you do, then you say, yeah, I have it. However, it was an approximation. So string hashing is that. Bucket allocation is something that we just discussed right now. And consistent hashing is something which is a little advanced. You can have a look at it, like I said, on YouTube. The general idea is this is for servers. Server allocation. Okay. Yeah, Dipanshu, you're asking for please more practical examples of hashing in the real world. Consistent hashing is probably the most common example. Hash map is something that we have discussed right now. So that is a practical example of hashing in the real world. String hashing is heavily used to reduce the search space of strings and efficiently match them. Yeah, that is the hash map. That is, again, something that we have spoken about today. How does, let's say, a hash map internally work is something, again, that we have touched upon. But what is the algorithm for bucket resizing and stuff depends on the language that you're using. So we talked about dynamic allocation based on just doubling the size. That's one way of going about things. You can also use a linked list. Cool. Oh, can we solve some question on hashing? We could. Which problem would you like to solve on hashing? One of the things I'll do is I'll share a couple of links for CodeChef problems which are dependent on hashing and which require some hashing knowledge to actually get things done. String hashing is extremely popular. Yeah, I'll search on my profile when I had actually solved them. This is like 3-4 years ago. This problem on string hashing had come up on CodeChef, so that might be interesting. Okay, guys, we're done. It'll be awkward if the organizers are. Yeah. Yes. Yes. No, I thought I'm alone over here for a while.
Thank you, Gaurav sir, for coming to the event and helping thousands of students and making a difficult topic very easy.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Sanch. Thanks for actually inviting me, and thanks, guys, for listening. This is a topic which is, to some extent, quite easy when you're starting off with it, but there's a lot of edge cases, and more than edge cases, there's a lot of use cases that this topic has. As we have seen, there are multiple things to be learned when it comes to hashing, and a lot of people, like in experienced positions, also find it difficult to implement a system which uses hashing efficiently. So that's something which is quite interesting. Like, you know it now, so you can actually go ahead and start implementing. Cool. Thanks, Ansh. Thanks for inviting me, and
Thank you for coming, sir.
Sure. Take care. Bye bye.
Now, I will announce the winners of yesterday's quiz. And winners of yesterday's quiz are Anjali Khushwa and Banasthali Vidyapeeth. Also, link for today's quiz will be shared soon in description box and chat box. So check that. Thank you for being a patient listener.